Hello listeners, this is the continuing video of Mahabharat audio series. This video will be regarding chapter number 78. It's about Brave Bhagadatta. Drona made many attempts to take Yudhishthira prisoner, but failed. Duryodhan led a large elephant division against Bhim. Bhim defended himself from his chariot with well-aimed arrows. He sent crescent-headed shafts and tore down Duryodhan's flag and cut down his bow even as he held it in his hand. Seeing the king harassed in this manner, the Melacha king, Anga, marched against Bhimsena seated on a huge elephant. But Bhim sent shafts that laid the elephant low and killed the Melacha king, which resulted in scattering that section of the Kaurav forces in fear and confusion. When the elephant stampeded, the horses also took fright, and thousands of footmen were trampled under the feet of the elephants and the horses, flying in wild panic. Seeing this great confusion and the scattering of the Kaurav forces in all directions, the king of Pragjyotisha, the brave Bhagadatta, grew indignant. He got upon his renowned elephant Supratika and charged against Bhimsena. The gigantic beast rushed forward with widespread ears and trailing trunk, crashed into Bhimsena's chariot, and in an instant, horses and vehicle were an unrecognizable mass. But Bhim escaped by jumping off his car in a nick of time. He knew all about elephants. He got below the great and fierce elephant and showered blows on vital points until the great beast got mad and whirled round like a potter's wheel, trying to throw off Bhimsena, who was sticking to its legs and harrying it from below. It bent down and caught Bhim by its trunk and was about to crush him under its knees when Rikodra somehow released himself from its hold and again got below, in between its limbs, and striking to the elephant's under regions caused exceeding pain to the beast. Bhim was thus gaining time in the hope that some elephant on the Pandav side would be led to attack Bhagadatta's elephant and enable him to get away. But when Bhim disappeared from view, being hidden in between the beast's legs, the soldiers thought Bhim was slain. They exclaimed, "Bhim is dead! Bhagadatta's elephant has crushed Bhimsena!" And the cry was repeated all over Kurukshetra. Yudhishthira heard the cry and, thinking Bhim was slain, urged the forces to destroy Bhagadatta. The king of Darshan charged against Bhagadatta. Darshan's elephant was also a fierce beast, and there was great battle between Supratika and Darshan's elephant. But Supratika's tusk pierced Darshan's beast in the side and it crushed down dead. At that moment, Bhim emerged from below Supratika and ran out safe, and the Pandav army cheered when they saw Bhim alive. Bhagadatta was now attacked on all sides, but he did not lose heart. Resplendent on his elephant, he shone like a forest fire on the hill, as, ignoring the enemies around him, he drove his beast on Satyaki's chariot. The elephant seized the chariot with its great trunk and, lifting it high, dashed it upside down. Satyaki jumped out of the chariot in time to save himself. His charioteer displayed great agility and skill and saved the vehicle as well as the horses, and, righting the chariot, drove it to where Satyaki stood. Bhagadatta's elephant wrought great havoc in the Pandav army, hurling warriors about and killing them in great number, striking terror wherever it went. Bhagadatta stood on its back like Indra on Airavat when he fought the Asurs. With ears spread out rigid in anger and trunk extended in front, the great beast trampled upon numerous horses, chariots and soldiers and wrought destruction all over the Pandav army. The shafts hurled at it seemed only to incense it more. Like a herdsman in the forest driving the cattle where he would, Bhagadatta drove the soldiers of the Pandav army before him. Bhimsena, equipping himself once again with a chariot, renewed his attack on Bhagadatta. The elephant stretched out its trunk and blew out a violent spray of mucus which scared the horses of Bhim's chariot, and they bolted in wild flight, and the charioteer could not check them. A great cloud of dust rose from the field where this great elephant battle raged. Arjun saw this from where he was fighting the Samsaptakas, and he also heard the tumult created by Bhagadatt's elephant. He feared things had gone wrong and said to Krishna, Madhusudan, this is the cry of Supratika, Bhagadatt's elephant. This king of Pragjyotisha is terrible with his elephant and has no equal in that kind of warfare. He is sure to defeat and confound our men. We must proceed at once and save the situation. We have punished these Samsaptakas enough. Drive to where Drona is engaging Yudhishthira. Krishna drove the chariot accordingly towards the main battlefront. Shusharm and his brothers came up behind the chariot and shouted, Stop, stop! At the same time, they discharged shafts at Arjun's chariot. Arjun was in two minds. Here is Shusharm challenging me to battle, and I hate declining this kind of invitation. But there, to the north of us, our formation seems broken and our men are in need of immediate relief. While Arjun was pondering thus, a javelin came hurtling at Arjun and another towards Janardhan. Wild with anger, Arjun sent 3 well-aimed shafts which compelled Shusharm to turn back. They lost no more time but drove quickly to where Bhagadatta was doing havoc. As soon as Arjun's car was seen, the Pandav forces rallied and soon Arjun reached the lines where Bhagadatta was. Bhagadatta attacked Arjun on Supratika like the destroyer incarnate. But Vasudev's skill avoided the shock each time the beast charged. Bhagadatta showered arrows on Arjun and Krishna, but Arjun's arrows broke the elephant's armor and began to hurt the beast. Bhagadatta saw that his elephant could no longer stand the attack and he hurled a javelin at Krishna. Arjun met it with a shaft from his bow and broke it into 2. Bhagadatta then discharged another javelin which struck Dhananjay's helmet. Readjusting his helmet, Arjun bent his bow exclaiming, Bhagadatta, take your last look at the world and prepare for death. Bhagadatta was veteran of very advanced age. His grey hair and the wrinkles on his noble old face gave him the intrepid appearance of a lion. Indeed, so old was he that the skin hung loose down over his eyes and he had tied its folds over his forehead with a silk kerchief so that they might not interfere with his sight. Bhagadatta was not more renowned for valor than for purity of character and conduct and was one of the most illustrious among the brave men of his time. Man gave him a title, Friend of Indra, in recognition of his greatness. Look around for the last time, said Arjun to this great man and hurled at him shafts, which broke his bow, shattered his quiver and pierced the joints of his armor. In those days, all warriors wore heavy armor, and the secret of hitting weak points such as joints and moving parts was specially studied by Kshatriyas and was an important part of military training. When deprived of all his weapons, Bhagadatta hurled his elephant goad at Arjun. It was sent with deadly aim and charged with the Vaishnav mantra. It would have killed Arjun, but Krishna came in between and presented himself as a target for the missile. It settled on his chest as a shining necklace. Charged with the mantra of Vishnu, it could not hurt Vishnu, but just became the Lord's jewel garland round his neck. Janardhan, how is it you have offered yourself as a target for the enemy's missile? You said you would be charioteer and leave all the fighting to me. How could you do this? Protested beloved Arjun. You do not understand. This shaft would have killed you if it had hit you. But it is really my own thing and came back to its lawful owner. Krishna said and laughed. Then Parth sent an arrow which entered the head of Bhagadatta's elephant as a serpent enters into the ant hill. Bhagadatta tried to urge his great beast forward, but it stood stark rigid, and his loud command went in vain, even as the words of man, who has lost his wealth, are disregarded by his wife. Like a great hill, the elephant stood rigid for a moment, and then, It suddenly sank down, driving its tusk into the earth, and yielded up the ghost with an agonist sequel. Arjun was somewhat grieved at the death of the noble animal, and for his not having been able to slay Bhagadatta without killing the beast. Arjun's shafts tore the silken napkin that bound up the folds of the aged king's forehead, and he was blinded at once by his own hanging wrinkles. Soon a sharp crescent-headed shaft came and pierced his chest, and Bhagadatta fell like a great tree in the storm, his golden necklace shining like flowers on the uprooted tree. The Kaurav forces fell into utter confusion. Shakuni's brothers, Vrisha and Achal, tried their best to oppose Arjun and attacked him in front and rear, but their chariots were soon dashed to pieces, and they were themselves stricken dead on the field like two lion cubs. They both looked much alike and equally noble in appearance. The poet says that the bodies of these two valiant heroes, who did not flee when the rest fled, shed a strange luster all around. Shakuni was full of anger when he saw his brave and incomparable brothers lying dead on the field. He attacked Arjun fiercely and used all the weapons of illusion in which he was skilled. But Arjun's strokes broke all the charms and rendered them useless, and Shakuni had to leave the field as fast as his horses could bear him. The Pandav forces then attacked Drona's army and wrought great havoc till the sun set, and the 12th day's fight ended. Drona gave orders to cease fighting, and the Kaurav forces, which had lost heavily, retired in sullen dejection to their camp. The Pandav army, on the other hand, was in high spirits, and its warriors gathered round campfires in cheerful talk and praise of Arjun and the other heroes who had led them to victory. Chapter 78 finishes here. Keep listening Mahabharat audio series in the next videos.